Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about what is color management. And the truth is, nobody knows. uh, no, that's not true. Actually, I know quite a bit about what it is. Um, and a lot of people will know one or more parts of the system, but don't fully grasp the entire system and how it works. And if you take a look at my crazy flow chart here, we can kind of take a deep dive into what color management is for print production and graphics. And it's important to realize that the customer, the end user of the product, is actually not part of the system, because you can still do all of this. The entire system, from graphics to prepress to proofing, press profiling and linearization, and you can deliver a print to a customer and the customer can say, I hate it, color's wrong. And there's nothing you can really do about that. However, completing this system, or having all of these practices in place, will at least allow you to then match the customer's print to their expectations, and at least you are aware of your presses and graphics team's repeatability of color, that redundancy, so the next time the customer orders that same print, you produce the same product. So it all starts with your graphics team, your designers in particular, and to ensure that your team of designers is all using the same working profile, and that same working profile is ultimately what you are going to point your presses towards. And then you'll get files from customers that may not be in this particular working profile. If you're in the US, you're probably designing to Grackle. If you're a designer in Europe, you're using a profile called Fogra. It's just the total color space and numerical denominations for each color sent to the press. Not only to the press, but in your graphics files as well. It's not super important what the profile is. It's just as long as it's uniform. You don't want one designer designing in the default swap profile and the other two designers are set to a working profile of Grackle. You want everybody on the same page. Alright, that aside, your presses, you have your offset or conventional presses here. We have a small fleet of digital presses here. And we want to make sure that all the presses are in working order in terms of reaching their color targets. Initially, you want to start with a linearization, especially with your offset or conventional presses. Make sure that your press curve is correct. And same goes for your digital ones. They don't call it linearization here, they call it calibration. Calibrating the machine. Essentially, you're just making sure all your CMYK primaries, particularly in the halftones, are printing as they should. From there, once your press has a proper curve or calibration, we then run a profiling chart. A profiling chart consists of a variety of different patches, anywhere from 900 to 6,000 different patches, that if you have an on-site color analyst that may be part of your prepress team, they will use their software to read in these charts. Once they know exactly how the press is printing color, they can then take those values and point it towards a standard color space, i.e. that same color space that your designers are designing to. Your pre-press team is, stepping and imposing files using that same working profile. Everything points back to this. Now, proofing. Generally have like a wide format printer on site for proofing, particularly the conventional presses, as they require exuberant setup, plates being made, make ready. It could take you an hour and a half before you get one sheet out to press. Well, that's not a very economical way of generating a proof for a customer. So you use a proofing machine, usually an Epson. Epson is king when it comes to proofing. I don't think anybody can convince me otherwise. If you're not proofing on an Epson, you're not proofing. Software has a lot to do with it also. But that Epson printer, you give the data and it will generate precisely what you tell it to print. Digital presses, on the other hand, you can actually generate a proof right off the digital press. There's significantly less setup involved. Cost is much lower to generate, a few pages for a customer, assuming the job's going to be ran on the digital press. So how do we get the proofer to match the press? Well, we've already linearized and we've profiled the press and we've pointed it to a standard color space, so we know precisely exactly what the press is printing, how it generates color. So we take the profiled press with color management settings applied and we generate one additional chart. From there, we can read the press at its final output, gather that data, tell the proofer to print like this. So now the proofer should generate a print near identical to what the conventional presses are going to print. Granted, there may be some differences in the texture, substrate, that sort of thing. If you have good software, you can actually even simulate that. GMG has phenomenal software. I'm telling you, I could read that chart, print the chart on the press, read it in the software, tell the proofer to print like that, and right out of the box, I'm a Delta 1 from what the litho press is producing. You could tweak it, manually in the software, adjust the curves slightly one way or the other. You can be at a delta like 0.5, 0.6 from what the press is doing. So now we can issue a proof to the customer so they can actually see relatively what the color is going to look like. They can then sign off on that proof. That proof gets saved when the job goes to press. That proof is with the pressman at the press. To match the proof, customer gets what they want. You can map this proofer to your entire fleet. And you generate a chart from each press. Read it in and say print like digital press A. Assuming the job's going to be ran there. You can even map press to press. So you can generate a chart on one press, read it into your color management software, and say digital press A, print like litho press B. However, you can only print to your weakest link. So if digital press A is incapable of matching offset litho press B, well, you're done. There's nothing you can do. If it's out of that color gamut, the litho press is just printing, vastly superior to your digital press. Well, it's best to just run the job on that, proof it to your Epson, and tell your customer that's what it's going to be. With all of this in place, you have predictability amongst your entire fleet. And like I said, it's not matching a customer print out of the box. It's just knowing what you're printing and being able to repeat that color reliably. 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road, can you hit that same print that you haven't ran in a year? Will it look the same? Well, you'll have the numbers to be able to tell you that. As you're generating these profiles in your color management software, you'll know whether you're hitting your target or not. That first day the press was installed, you'll have numbers representing its pinnacle performance. And if it's 2 or 3 years down the road and you go to verify that, so you can say, repeat this process, let me linearize, regenerate that same profile chart, and see where we are now. Are we still hitting the target? You may not be. There's a lot of variables that can affect whether a press is at its best or not. Sheet-fed litho presses, if your blankets are worn, your ink form rollers are a million impressions past due. A lot of people don't like to replace them because they're super expensive, like $30,000 a roller, something like that. So sure, digital press is no different. In fact, digital presses will fluctuate from the morning to the afternoon based on environmental conditions. Especially in the fall and in the spring, where it may be, humidity may be super low and temperature is cool in the morning. You do your linearization then, and then by the time it's the afternoon and it's 20 degrees warmer than it was before and humidity has risen significantly, you'll need to recalibrate. There's no way around it. Most digital presses anyway. But technology is changing, and digital presses have come a long way. But that's it. That's color management in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it that we can get into. But it's having your entire print business, from file creation to pre-press to proofing to the customer, all on the same page. And the color doesn't have to be correct. It's not about correct color. It's about repeatable color. It's about knowing what you're producing. Without doing the profile and the linearization, you generate a print for a customer now. 6 months down the road, it doesn't look like it did before, and you have no explanation for it. You have no numbers. You have nothing to go back to. You can't re-verify because you don't know. You're printing completely in the dark. And you'll be color correcting every file every time. Until this system is implemented, and even then you're still, if you don't do it right off the bat, because now you have a repeatable color system, but you've ran 7,000 jobs over the last 3 years, that this what are you going to do? You got to start from scratch and build your color from there. And that's it. If you guys can take a minute to just like and subscribe, that's awesome for me. I'm trying my best down here. It hasn't been the easiest, but like and subscribe, that helps me, and hopefully I can produce more content that helps you. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.